Welcome to the FEMolution podcast. This isn't another finance show about hustling harder, chasing revenue, or glorifying burnout. And it's definitely not another conversation about chasing profit at any cost. This is where we dismantle the systems that told you you had to make more money before you were allowed to protect it. Because at Fem Solutions, we believe in something radically different. Protection comes first, and profit naturally follows. Because real financial power isn't about being rich, it's about being resourced. And on this podcast, we're redefining what financial freedom actually means. And it is not a destination reserved for the wealthy, but it's a daily practice available at any income level when you understand how to manage, protect, and optimize what you already have. We talk about building financial ecosystems, not just profitable businesses, about securing your infrastructure before you scale your income, and creating systems that protect your cash flow, your peace, and your future. You'll hear conversations rooted in FEM's core philosophy: protection first, not profit first, and strong money that supports a soft life, and freedom that's measured by resources, not status. And last but definitely not least, impact that extends beyond your bank account. Because FEM is not here to follow the industry standards. We're here to set a new one. Because we don't just serve clients, we empower change makers. And this podcast is part of that movement. It's part of our empowering process. So if you know your brilliance deserves better support, if you're done building income without infrastructure, and you're ready to stop leaking money, energy, and peace, then you're in the right place. This is the FEMolution podcast, where we teach you how to do money the Fem way. Before we even jump into today's episode, I want to be clear about what you can expect. Okay? This episode is not a step-by-step walkthrough with a pretty spreadsheet and perfectly planned allocations to each S in order. That's not how life works. If everything worked out perfectly, the exact way that we planned it, then stress, particularly money stress, would never be an issue for anyone. What I'm about to share is not a tutorial of FEMFlow, a checklist, or something you can copy and paste into your life and suddenly be fine. Okay? This episode is a demonstration of an actual situation where FEMFlow was used under pressure. Over the last 5 episodes, we've talked about the 4S system, FEMFlow, right? We've talked about survival, stability, self-care, and savings. We've talked about nervous system finance. We've talked about protection first sequencing. And now I want to show you what that actually looks like when pressure hits. Not in theory, not in a clean example, but in real life. In a human being using the system. Okay? Not that long ago, I had one of those weeks where things didn't just go wrong, they stacked. You know those periods we all go through where it seems like everything that could go wrong does go wrong, and it seems to hit you all at once at the worst possible time. Yeah. So here's what happened to me. I had an unexpected expense first, right? An unexpected income decline second. And then realizing that my bank account was overdrafted, all back to back. And I want to be clear about something. I wasn't calm. I wasn't zen. I wasn't floating above it all like it wasn't happening and everything was going to work out perfectly. I was stressed. Okay. Like my nervous system was fully activated, it was on red alert. And I felt that familiar pressure of everything needing to be solved right now, like immediately. Now, the important part isn't that it happened, right? The important part is what I did next. The first thing I did, the very first thing, was acknowledge the pressure. I didn't minimize it. I didn't pretend it wasn't happening. And I didn't shame myself for feeling overwhelmed and like I was ready to just break. Because pretending you're not under pressure doesn't make you better with money. It just makes you reactive in quieter ways, right? And I remember thinking during this time, like, this is a lot. This is a lot. Like, I don't know how I'm going to get through this time right now, right? But then I remembered something very specific, okay? I have a system for situations like this. Now I'm going to say this part out loud, only because I know some of you will recognize it immediately and because it's the truth, right? This is what happened. By the time that third hit landed, I just felt the urge to escape. Like my fight or flight kicked in and I wanted to just flight, book it out of there, right? And I just was like feeling like I just wanted to throw my hands up, say, fuck the system. It's not helping me right now, and just be done with it. Now, the urge didn't last long, okay? But it was there. And I've been here before, right? So I know exactly what abandoning the system gets me. It gets me avoiding, it gets me emotionally spending, retail therapy, distraction, temporary relief. And then almost immediately afterwards, regret. That's why, like, I know what I would do without the system, right? I know how I react because I've been there before. Okay. And that's just what I would do to get through those moments. But when it's all said and done, right? The money's gone, the problem's still there, and now I'm worse off than I was before. Yeah, I felt better for a moment, but then I felt worse. So, in that moment, when that urge popped up for me, okay, I asked myself a different question. Where would abandoning the system actually get me? That's when I stopped trying to fix everything, right? Instead, I started sequencing. I didn't label things perfectly, okay? I didn't pull out a framework document. I didn't pull up a spreadsheet, okay? I simply looked at what was due now and I asked myself two questions over and over. Is this critical to my survival? Yes or no, right? If the answer was yes, the next question became, do I have wiggle room Is there a grace period? Can I get an extension? Right? Yes or no? And I answered, when it came to rent, is this critical to survival? Yes. Does it have wiggle room for me? Like, is this flexible? No. The grace period on that was like a few days. So it wasn't flexible enough for what flexibility I needed in that moment, right? So that's prioritized. Water. Is this critical to survival? Yes. Do I have some flexibility? No. Not in this moment, right? Lights. Is this critical to survival? Yes. Do I have flexibility with this one? Yes. Oh, I got flexibility. Okay. Cool. These are all non-negotiable expenses, right? They're all survival expenses. And normally these things would be competing in our mind, right? Because they're survival. But here's where the unexpected expense comes in. In order to pay rent, I had to pay a surprise AC repair bill, right? Like the portal that's used for where I live, if there's a maintenance charge or something like that that's put on your account, you don't get to do partial payments. You can't pay the rent and worry about the bill later. You have to pay it together or you can't pay it at all in that system, okay, in that portal. So when I realized I couldn't pay rent without paying the AC bill, I'm like, okay, now I have to allocate more money to pay the rent because I just got this surprise bill that I have to cover. Because if I don't cover that, then I can't pay rent. If I don't pay rent, I don't have a place to live, right? So the decision became clear. Rent and AC came first, right? Get those out of the way. Then I looked at everything else. Not to ignore it, but again, to see where flexibility existed. Could I get an extension on the water bill this month? No. It's just the situation I was in at that moment, right? So I prioritized that second, paid the water bill. Could I get an extension or a payment arrangement, some type of breathing room when it came to the lights? Yes. And it wasn't avoidance, right? It was just containment. With each decision, the pressure eased a little bit, right? So I used flexibility where it existed. A small fee, $10, I kid you not, bought me time on the light bill. And not just a few days. I'm talking about 2 full weeks of breathing room. Okay. Then my phone bill, because that was next. That's survival, honestly, right? Could I get a payment plan or an extension or something there? Yes. Set it up. Then my car note. Yes, I need my transportation. Yes, it's critical to survival because it takes care of, getting my youngest daughter to her therapy appointments and her doctor's appointments that she can't miss, right? And she has to go twice a week. So for me, my car note is survival, right? It's part of survival for me. Is there any flexibility? Yeah, it's not due till X date, right? And then I have a 10-day grace period from there. And if I need longer than that, then I can reach out, right? So I had flexibility there. So instead of trying to pay early like I normally do, I decided to hold off and ask for an extension if I needed it, right? Because I still had time. And with each step I took, each decision I made, looking at my bills one at a time, right? Something important happened. The pressure started to ease, okay? Not because everything was solved, but because collapse was no longer imminent. There was no immediate threat to my survival anymore. Rent was handled, water was handled, got some time on the lights, got some time on my phone, got some time on my car note, and suddenly my nervous system wasn't under attack anymore. I could think clearly again, right? The decisions got easier, not because there were more options, but because the right order had been honored, right? I focused on survival. And in survival, you also have micro decisions you must make, especially when things happen, right? And they stack like that. So here's what didn't happen in this situation, okay? I didn't skip survival to chase optics and try to put more money up into savings or stability or self-care, right? I didn't prioritize my credit, which was something I'm working on, right? During this period. I didn't chase that over having a place to live. I didn't prioritize it, right? I didn't drain the future to soothe the present. And without a system, that is exactly what I would have done, right? I would have been like, okay, I have money available in savings. I'm going to use that. And most people would commend someone for dipping into their savings to cover survival, right? You might think like that's the logical thing to do. No, that's a short-term decision, right? It's a short-term decision, but it affects you long-term because now you got to make that back up too. And if you drain your savings, you're starting at square one. Why would I make a decision that affects me long-term based off a short-term situation, a temporary one, right? Most people would drain their savings. That would be the responsible thing to do, right? And without a system, that's exactly what I would have done, right? So let's be honest. Not because I'm irresponsible, not because draining savings is the responsible move, right? But because urgency lies. FEMFlow did not make that week painless, okay? I'm gonna be honest. It did not. I was still stressed during that week. When those hits kept coming, I was stressed. I acknowledged that. I felt like I was drowning, and I acknowledged that. I didn't minimize it. I didn't hope it away. I didn't try to avoid it. I didn't retail therapy my way out of it, right? I didn't try to self-care my stress away. It didn't magically add money to my account. But what it did was something far more important. It kept me in control under pressure. And I say this all the time, right? FEMFlow is not about perfection. Okay? It's about staying housed, staying lit, staying resourced, and staying regulated, even when things hit you fast. Even when they're back to back to back to back at the worst possible time. That's what protection first sequencing looks like in real life. It wasn't a pretty spreadsheet. It wasn't perfect allocations, right? It was decision making under pressure. Plain and simple. So, I mean, if you've been listening to the series and you're thinking, I don't need more discipline, right? I don't need to hustle harder. I don't need to push through or pretend that pressure won't happen. I just need a way to handle money that I don't abandon when it gets hard. That's what FEMFlow is. Plain and simple. This is the Femelution, okay? We do money the Fem way. And before I let you go, I'm going to leave you with one final thought. Because we've all been there, right? Most people, when they give you a system, they tell you what it works, how it works, sorry, in perfect conditions. How if you just follow the system, everything will work out perfectly. They don't build their systems for real life, for the times when pressure is dragging you down. They're not built to withstand that. They're built to withstand you following the system no matter what. And your body being the backup plan, your nervous system being the contingency plan. That's why there's a lot of pain focused messaging out there. We all see it, right? If you just put enough pressure on that pain point that they're experiencing, they'll make a decision that gives you money that they might need for something else. They're going to do whatever they got to do so that you can relieve their pressure. So I'm going to ask you a question. Do you want a system where pressure is used against you and your nervous system is always under attack? Or do you want a system where pressure is used to your advantage, right? And your nervous system is not the backup plan because the system holds under pressure. Holds, not folds. Okay? Just ask yourself that question because that's what I'm going to leave you with. And next week we're going to talk about why make more money is bad advice when you're under pressure. Okay? So until then, I will see you guys next week.